Joe's about to go live.
Oh, okay. We're live. Does that need to be turned off?
ladies and gentlemen, the greatest rendition of the national anthem that you've ever heard by way of the wonderful Whitney Houston. Rest in power, Whitney. Welcome to another Game On Sports production event. Your Highland Park Scots on the road taking on the Lake Highlands Wildcats. Another non-district gauntlet. You see the starting lineups being announced right now. That is your Scots being announced. Hello, world, again. My name is Matthew Bryson. We say again, thank you for tuning in to Game On Sports. Highland Park at Lake Highlands. We will return right after the final introductions of the starting lineups for both Highland Park and Lake Highlands. And that was the starting lineups. We're going to go over the starting lineups once again for Highland Park. Highland Park going with a three-guard set. Cannon Wyatt, the senior. Cade Kaplan, the senior. Freshman Chris Martinez, who is already solidifying himself as more of a veteran than a freshman. And up front in the court is Will Saunders and Conrad Noble. Will Saunders, you see him, number 4, the veteran. Seemed like he's been here 10 years, but ladies and gentlemen, it's only been 4. He is at midcourt and ready to do battle against the big man from Lake Highlands, the young sophomore. Keep an eye on number 20, Eli Johnson. But jumping it off against Big Will, number 5, Uyosa. Osa Wednesday. Very much a tongue tie. Here we go. Lake Highlands winning it. And bringing it up the court for the Wildcats. That's number 11, Jamian Broom. Chris Martinez staring him down. Wildcats with some good ball movement. The third 6A opponent that Highland Park has faced in its 3 games played. And that one missed. Chris Martinez with the rebound, bringing it up the court and aggressively bringing it up the court. Martinez getting it over to Cannon Wyatt. To the basket he goes. Lake Highlands with some good defense, but out on Lake Highlands. And the Scots will retain possession. The Scots are 1-1. They won that first matchup against a 6A opponent last Friday, being the Wiley Pirates. They then were defeated by Allen this past Tuesday to bring them to 1-1. And speaking of 1, number 1, Cannon Wyatt, to the free throw line he goes. They got Jay-Sean Wilkerson for the personal. And Wyatt, good for his first points of the game and the first points of the game for both teams here at the 7:20 mark. Cannon Wyatt, 3rd year on varsity, and he has earned the right to be one of the captains, along with Will Saunders. Wyatt seems like he's been here forever as well, as has Saunders. Highland Park leading 2-0, 7-10 and ticking here in the first period. And the Wildcats looking to even it up. Will Saunders with some good defense. There's a three-point shot up, no good. Martinez with his second rebound of the game gets it out to Cannon White. White pulling the trigger immediately. Nothing doing. Rebound. Cade Kaplan goes up and fouled. And Kaplan headed to the free throw line. Kaplan, a senior guard, his first year on varsity, but has started all 3 games this year. Kaplan hitting that first one. Stretching the lead to 3-0 here early. And Cade Kaplan looking to remain perfect at the free throw line, as is the Scots. First 2 points put up by Cannon White, which were also at the free throw line. Second free throw, missed. Rebound, Eli Johnson. Highland Park leading 3-0. 6:45 to go in ticking here in the first period. There's Jamian Broom. Getting it over to his guy, Osa. And Osa turns it over. Ball, Highland Park. He was trying to get it to Jay-Sean Wilkerson. Wilkerson had a wide open lane to the basket. Could not execute. Here comes Chris Martinez. Broom staring them down. Martinez getting it into Noble. Noble back to Cannon White. Wide over to Saunders. Saunders pulls the trigger. Money! Big wheel! From three-point land. And Highland Park leading 6-0 early as we approach that 6-minute mark. Henry Moore doing battle with Cade Kaplan. Moore going to get it out to Broom for 3. Broom nails it. Long range. That was from NBA range. Making the score 6-3. Scott still leading. There's Martinez to the basket. Nothing doing. They get Will Saunders for an offensive foul. And Saunders trying to set a screen for Martinez. Ref said he moved. Miller Mask is going to check in now for Osa on the Lake Highlands side. Jamian Broom, Chris Martinez. Broom over to Moore. Moore gets it inside to Johnson. Nothing doing. Excuse me, that was Wilkerson with the shot. Johnson tried to get it back to Wilkerson. Nothing doing. And Highland Park so far with some great defense. Still early, 5:27 and ticking in the first period. And Cade Kaplan going to the basket, and he draws a foul. And for those who have watched, it is business as usual for Highland Park. For those of you who are just tuning in right here at Game On Sports, Highland Park, very aggressive with their guards. Cade Kaplan hitting that first free throw attempt. All of Highland Park's guards, whether it's Cannon White, Cade Kaplan, or Chris Martinez, and Alex Stockwood, who you will see also in this game. Very aggressive. They are not afraid of anyone, and they will go to the basket. Cade Kaplan stretching Highland Park's lead to 8-3. 5:11 and ticking. Johnson over to Moore. Moore over to Broom. And Broom being stared down by Martinez. Martinez in his hip pocket, screen doing nothing. And Broom is going to shoot 3. They got Chris Martinez. They said Martinez got him on the wrist as Jamian Broom shot a 3-pointer. And Jamian Broom nailing the first one, bringing him to 4 points. He has scored all 4 of the Lake Highlands points so far this evening. And Broom nailing the second one, bringing it to 8-5. We are dead on at the 5-minute mark here in the first period. Third attempt by Broom. Nails all 3. And it seems to be business as usual with Lake Highlands. One thing about the Lake Highlands basketball program, they are one of the best free throw shooting teams, not only here in the state of Texas, but in the entire United States. Highland Park leading 8-6. And there's Cannon White to the basket. Cannot finish. Rebound, Eli Johnson. Johnson gets it to Henry Moore. Cannon Wyatt staring him down. Gets it over to Wilkerson. And there's a shot from Eli Johnson. Nothing doing. Rebound. Cannon Wyatt. Wyatt bringing it up the court. And he's going to fire the trigger. Nothing doing. And that one rebounded by Ja'Sean Wilkerson. And here comes the Wildcats. And Eli Johnson, baseline, feeds it to Wilkerson. Cannot miss. Will Saunders with great defense. Martinez gets it up to Cannon Wyatt. Fast break. Wyatt finishing for 2 more. And Highland Park leading 10-6 as we reach that 4-minute mark here in the first quarter. And there's Big Miller Mask feeding it to Henry Moore for 3. Moore cannot get it. Rebound, Conrad Noble. And they're saying Ja'Sean Wilkerson committed an over-the-back foul. Possession, Scots. 3:51 to go in the first period. Highland Park off to a great start. And there's Martinez, the point guard. Sincere Anderson is in the game now for Lake Highlands. Martinez straight to the basket. Lake Highlands with great defense. Eli Johnson getting it to Henry Moore. Moore to feed the Mask. Conrad Noble, great defense. They're saying the jump ball. Possession. Highland Park, and Lake Highlands calls the timeout. Maybe he got the timeout off and it'll be possession Lake Highlands. It'd be a full timeout. Here at Lake Highlands Gym, Highland Park leading 10-6. Go over the early scorers. And Jamian Broom scoring all 6 points for the home team, Lake Highlands. Over to Highland Park we go. And Highland Park being led by Cannon Wyatt with 4. Cade Kaplan with 3. Will Saunders with 3. As they have ran out the scoring for Highland Park. Getting a good look at both teams. Lake Highlands breaking their huddle. Highland Park breaking theirs. Coach David Peeler. 20th year as the Highland Park head coach. A phenomenal job he has done. 475 and 159 at HP so far. And we're back to action. Eli Johnson. Henry Moore. Cade Kaplan staring him down. And Eli Johnson going to go to the basket, and he finishes. Johnson's first 2 points of the evening. Highland Park leading 10-8. Spencer Olmanson in the game now for Highland Park. Kaplan, nice feed to Stockwood. Stockwood cannot control, gets it to Will Saunders for 3. Will Saunders with 6 points, all 6 coming on 2 3-point attempts. Highland Park in front 13-8. Alex Stockwood, the other freshman guard for Highland Park, in the game now. And a turnover forced by Cade Kaplan. Martinez on the move, fast break. Nothing doing. Rebound, Eli Johnson. Wildcats now with a fast break opportunity. And there's a 3-point shot up and no good. Eli Johnson tries to tip it. Martinez gets it over to Olmanson. Olmanson feeds it to Will Saunders. He's feeling it. Yes! Will Saunders with 9, 3 for 3 from three-point land. Highland Park leading 16-8. 2:15 and ticking here in the first period. And Lake Highlands, Eli Johnson, baseline to the basket. Cannot finish. Great defense. Alex Stockwood rebounded by Spencer Olmanson. Gets it over to Saunders, and Saunders is going to bring it up and now feeds it to Martinez. Martinez to Stockwood and back to Martinez and back to Saunders. Saunders a feed to Olmanson. Olmanson a nice cut, but cannot finish. Knocked out of bounds. Great defense by Sincere Anderson from Lake Highlands. Quincy Perkins checking into the game now for Lake Highlands. As is Osa. He is back. Saunders to the basket. Draws the foul. Cannot finish, but he will go to the free throw line to shoot 2. And they get Quincy Perkins. for his first foul of the evening. And Big Will Sanders cannot hit the first free throw. Saunders, the only returning starter from last year's Highland Park team. As we see Zach Jackson check into the game now for Highland Park. Saunders misses both free throws. And here comes Quincy Perkins of Lake Highlands. Swiftly up the court, gets it over to Quincy Perkins. Perkins back to Jamian Broom. Also in the game is Kenneth Brown for Lake Highlands, number 22. Big Osa being stared down by Will Saunders, and a great move by Osa. Osa Mwinzi with the big basket. Bringing Lake Highlands to within 6. Highland Park leading 16-10. Alex Stockwood, the quick trigger, and good. Stockwood, his first shot, and it goes down for 3. Highland Park with a 9-point lead. We are right at the 1-minute mark here in the first period. And Jackson staring down Perkins. Omenson the steal. Omenson on the move. Omenson is going to go up on the fast break. Cannot finish. Stockwood the rebound. Stockwood, a lot of action going on. Zach Jackson with it, comes up with it, gets it to Will Saunders. Highland Park controls, lot going on. And Stockwood. We got to give Alex Stockwood some credit for the aggressive hustle after the missed layup. And Highland Park going to hold for the last shot. Cannon Wyatt. Being stared down by Sincere Anderson. He's one of Lake Highlands' best defenders. Cannon Wyatt is ready for the challenge. Get it over to Spencer Olmenson for 3. Yes, sir! And that's the end of the first period. Highland Park leading Lake Highlands 22-10. As we prepare for the second period, we go over the leading scorers. First for Lake Highlands, 6 points by Jamian Broom. 2 by Yui Osa Mwinzi. Eli Johnson with 2 points. And over to Highland Park, you got 9 points from Will Saunders. 4 from Cannon Wyatt. 3 from Cade Kaplan. 3 from Spencer Olmenson. And 3 from Alex Stockwood. And Highland Park with a 12-point lead against Lake Highlands. For those of you who have just tuned in, we say thank you for tuning in to Game On Sports Network. My name is Matthew Bryce. I have your color and your play-by-play. Cookie Hawkins running the show. And Fred Garner is in the house as well. And a big shout out to the DJ here at Lake Highlands as he is playing some fantastic music. 90s hip hop. Hearing I Got 5 on it by the Loonies takes me back to elementary school. Possession Highland Park to start the second quarter. Here comes Cannon Wyatt. Getting it over to Stockwood. Back to Wyatt. And also in the game is Graham Goodwin for Highland Park. Zach Jackson still in the game. Stockwood. Nice screen. Stockwood wanted to pull the mid-range, but he gets it over to Olmenson. Lake Highlands really turning it up on defense. And there's a feed to Jackson, but Jackson well defended. Gets it over the corner for Alex Stockwood for 3. Nothing doing. Rebound Lake Highlands. And they are going to get Graham Goodwin for his first one. Jay-Sean Wilkerson checking back into action for Lake Highlands. Wilkerson getting it into Sincere Anderson. They're joined on the court by Quincy Perkins. Oh, Yui Osa Mwinzi. I'm going to get that right before it's over with tonight. There's a three-point shot by Lake Highlands, nothing doing. The nice rebound by Kenneth Brown. Brown cannot finish due to great defense by Spencer Olmenson. Stockwood over to Olmenson. Olmenson to feed to Jackson. Jackson going to go up with it. Cannot finish. Rebound, Osa. And here comes Lake Highlands. That's Ja'Shawn Wilkerson. Perkins. Wilkerson. And Cannon Wyatt with some great defense on the baseline, as is Alex Stockwood. And they get him for a foul. And Stockwood did a great job of staying in front of Sincere Anderson, but Sincere able to draw the foul. And Anderson is going to shoot 2 shots. And that one's good. That's Sincere Anderson's first point of the game. Getting the Wildcats to within 11. 6:40 to go here in the second period. And he drains the second one. Anderson perfect at the free throw line. Highland Park leading by 10, 22-12. Alex Stockwood bringing it up the right side of the court, gets it to Jackson. And back to Stockwood it goes. Screen by Goodwin. Feed to Jackson. Feed. Nothing doing. Graham Goodwin cannot finish. Also with the rebound. There's Anderson. Bringing it back. Anderson aggressively to the basket. The ref says that foul is on the ground. They got Spencer Olmison for his first foul of the evening. Subbing in for Highland Park. Conrad Noble is back. Charlton Bradford with his first action of the evening. And also Cade Kaplan checking back in. Possession, Lake Highlands. Wildcats with it. And Perkins going to get it back to Anderson. Anderson going to the basket, feeds it to Osa, he finishes. Osa Winsey with the finish for Lake Highlands. He has 4. Lake Highlands to within 8. Highland Park leading 22-11. Nothing doing. Cannon Wyatt wanted the 3, but he could not finish. Lake Highlands on their way back up the court. Spin, nice finish, Sincere Anderson. And that's going to be a timeout called by Highland Park. Sincere Anderson with a nice finish at the basket. As we get a timeout here at the 5:46 mark, we're going to take a quick break, 30 seconds. Highland Park leading 22-16 over Lake Highlands. Thank you for tuning in to Game On Sports. We will return in just a moment, and literally a moment. And that moment is now up as we are back here at the 5:46 mark to go in the second quarter before halftime. Highland Park leading Lake Highlands 22-16. Follow us on all of our social media platforms. Game On Sports Network. Game On Sports is the handle on Twitter, known as X now, Instagram, and Facebook. You can also follow me on both Twitter, known as X, and Instagram. Matthew on the mic is my handle. If that doesn't work, just type in my full name that my mother and father gave me, which is Matthew Allen Bryce, and I do follow back on both, ladies and gentlemen. Martinez to feed Kaplan. Baseline cannot finish, and they get Kaplan for an offensive foul. Great defense by Lake Highlands. Fourth team foul of the second quarter by Highland Park. 5:20 and ticking to go before halftime. 22-16. Lake Highlands on a 6-0 run so far. And Lake Highlands almost turning it over. But they retain possession. Henry Moore with it. Getting it into Osa. Conrad Noble, great defense, staring him down. And nice from behind the back defense by Cade Kaplan. They're seeing jump ball. Possession Lake Highlands, but Cade Kaplan, that was Cannon Wyatt. Cannon Wyatt helping out helping out Conrad Noble on the defensive end. And Lake Highlands turns it over on the inbounds pass. Here goes Martinez, and he draws a foul. And Martinez was trying to get it to Charlton Bradford on the fast break. They get Miller Bass for his first foul of the evening. Jamie Broom coming back for the Wildcats. Big Will Saunders back in the game for Highland Park. Subs in for Charlton Bradford. Bradford was active on the defensive side for the Scots. There's Martinez and Jamie Broom doing battle. Martinez up for the task. Martinez to the basket. Martinez, the finish. Chris Martinez with his first points of the game. Highland Park leading 24-16. 4:35 and ticking before halftime. Lake Highlands with it. Eli Johnson, mid-range, cannot do it. Will Saunders the rebound. He gets it into Martinez. Martinez on the move. The Scots on the move. Martinez chopping. Martinez to the basket. And beautiful finish. And you see why Coach Peeler loves him. One of the reasons he loves him. Highland Park back in front by double digits now. 26-16 leading. As Broom gets it to Eli Johnson. Johnson back to Broom and back to Jay-Sean Wilkerson. And there's a shot, corner three, nothing doing. Great defense by Conrad Noble. Martinez the rebound. He pushes it and tries to throw the long pass over to Will Saunders, and they turn it over. Great idea by Martinez. Just couldn't finish it. Lake Highlands defending that one pretty well as well. And blocked by Will Saunders. Jamie Broom tried to go up with the mid-range. Saunders said, no, sir. We're going to throw a block party. And Henry Moore doing battle. Cade Kaplan with some good defense. Martinez with some good defense. But a great finish by Jay-Sean Wilkerson for his first 2 points. And Cannon Wide, a nice feed. Noble cannot control it. 3:20 to go in this second quarter. Highland Park leading 26-18. Good tempo shown on both sides of the court by both Highland Park and Lake Highlands this evening. And there's a mid-range, nothing doing, rebound. Cannon Wyatt. Wyatt the feed to Martinez. Martinez going to pull the trigger for three. Nothing doing. Broom the rebound. Here comes the Wildcats. There's Wilkerson. There's Eli Johnson going baseline. Conrad Noble with some great defense. How about that? Getting it over to Will Saunders. Saunders going to take his time, slow it down. Cade Kaplan over to Martinez. Kaplan being stared down by Jay-Sean Wilkerson. Kaplan back to Saunders. Saunders over to Noble and back to Saunders. And Cannon Wide with control. Will Saunders telling Kaplan to shift. Wide to the basket. Wide over to Kaplan for three. Cannot nail it. Conrad Noble with a great rebound. Martinez for three. Yes! 7 points for Martinez. Highland Park up by 11, 29-18. 2:06 to go and ticking before halftime. Wildcats. Nice drop to the basket. Great defense. Will Saunders says, welcome to the block party. Transition, Cade Kaplan. Yes, indeed. Timeout, Lake Highlands. It's Highland Park with a 13-point lead now over Lake Highlands. A full timeout taken by Lake Highlands. Both teams huddle up. We give a big thank you again for those of you who are tuned in. We are live on the Lake Highlands High School campus. The Wildcats, one of the best 6A programs in the entire nation, hosting your Highland Park Scots. Highland Park, their third game of the season played this year. Their third against a quality 6A opponent. They were victorious 61-56 over Wiley last Friday. This past Tuesday, they took one on the chin against Allen, but Allen is pretty good. And tonight, they play Lake Highlands. And both teams get ready to come out of this timeout. If you're Highland Park, you want to keep that pressure dialed up on the defensive side. The Scots have done a very good job of forcing Lake Highlands to shoot nothing but three-pointers. Conrad Noble, Will Saunders playing some quality defense in the paint. Cannon Wide helping out. with the backside defense. Cade Kaplan, Chris Martinez doing their part. And transition points and three-point shots have been major for the Scots. As we are back to action, 146 and ticking before the half. Great defense by Highland Park continue to be played. And Osa gets it over to Broom. Broom over to Eli Johnson for three. Eli Johnson cannot finish. Rebound, Jay-Sean Wilkerson with it. Gets it to Osa. Osa with the slam. 6 points for Osa Wimze. Osa Wimwenze for Lake Highlands. Highland Park lead 31-20. Martinez to Saunders. Saunders, Noble to Kaplan. Kaplan to feed. Will Saunders with a nice finish. Will Saunders in the double digits now. He's got 11 tonight. Highland Park right here at the 1 minute mark, leading 33-20 before half. Great mid-range by Jay-Sean Wilkerson, giving him 4 points. Highland Park's lead cut to 11 at 33-22. Martinez up the court, tried to feed it to Cannon wide. Kaplan has it. Kaplan to the basket. And they're saying Kaplan drew the foul. And he's going to go to the free throw line. They got Sincere Anderson. And Cade Kaplan to the free throw line. He's going to shoot 2. That's that aggressive nature you see by the Scots. He hits that one, gets the roll. And even when things seem to be a little bit out of control, the Scots not backing down against the Lake Highlands team with pretty good size and athleticism, I might add. Cade Kaplan cannot hit the second one. The lead remains at 12, 34-22. Highland Park leading as we hit the 30-second mark here right before halftime. Eli Johnson with it, one of the young sophomores on that Lake Highlands team. Some good youth on the court for both Highland Park and Lake Highlands. There's a three-pointer up, nothing doing. Martinez with good rebound. Here comes Cade Kaplan. Kaplan dishes it to Cannon wide baseline, and he cannot finish, but he's headed back to the free throw line. And Highland Park really doing a good job of catching Lake Highlands on its heels. Cannon Wyatt nailing that first free throw. Wyatt now with 5 points. Making it 35-22 Highland Park. Wyatt hits that one. He's perfect. Give him 6 points. Stretch the Highland Park lead to 36-22. 9 seconds and ticking. And here come the Wildcats. Jay-Sean Wilkerson with it. Martinez in his hip pocket. Wilkerson, and great defense by Cannon Wyatt. Sincere Anderson wanted a layup, and Wyatt said no, sir. 1 second left. Wildcats trying to get it in. They get it in, three-pointer out of the corner. Oh, my God. What a shot. Jay-Sean Wilkerson with a three-point buzzer beater to cut Highland Park's lead to 11. As we go to the half, your Highland Park Scots leading Lake Highlands 36-25. My name is Matthew Bryce, and we will return in just a moment right here to Game On Sports.
Here are the unofficial halftime scores. Starting with the Wildcats. Actually, we'll do that in just a minute. First, here are the Ruby Reds. locally owned and operated business located in the Lake Highlands at the Town Center in Dallas. Merrill Homes is also a sponsor of Lake Highlands basketball this year. A home should be designed to inspire and improve the lives of those within it and around it. Dallas Elite Athletics, also a sponsor. A youth basketball and volleyball organization focused on player development, competitive team play, and positive-based culture. The Bar Grid, also a
And we are back here on the campus of Lake Highlands High School, where the Lake Highlands Wildcats are hosting your Highland Park Scots. We say thank you for tuning in to another Game On Sports Network production. My name is Matthew Bryce. I have your play-by-play and your color. You're getting a good look at the Scots as they huddle up before they get started in the second half. Going to run down some of the leading scorers for both teams. Starting with Lake Highlands, we got Jayshawn Wilkerson with 6. Osa Wednesday with 6 points as well. 7 for Wilkerson, 6 for Osa Wednesday. I'm going to get it right. I promise I am. Jamian Broom with 6 points for Lake Highlands, and Eli Johnson with 2. Sincere Anderson with 4. For Highland Park, the leading scorers are Will Saunders. He has 11. Chris Martinez, he's got 7. 6 points apiece by both Cannon Wyatt and Cade Kaplan. Spencer Olmanson with 3, and Alex Stockwood also with 3 to round out the scoring for Highland Park. It was a great first half on both ends of the court for Highland Park, offensively and defensively, shooting the rock from three-point range and in transition. And here come the Scots starting the second half. Chris Martinez, Cannon Wyatt in the game, as is Cade Kaplan. And Cannon Wyatt on fire, starting the second half with a three-point shot. 9 points on the evening for Cannon Wyatt as Highland Park now leads 39-25. Also on the court for Highland Park, Big Will Saunders and Conrad Noble. I was about to call him Spencer Olmanson. That's Conrad Noble. Will Saunders with great defense on Osa. Lake Highlands with it. Eli Johnson, his second 3 of the night. Highland Park still up by double digits, leading 39-28. Martinez and Jamian Broom have done battle all night at that point guard spots. Highland Park turning it over. Jamian Broom now bringing it up for Lake Highlands, and Martinez staring him down. They've done that to one another all evening. Sincere Anderson in the game for Lake Highlands as well. Jayshawn Wilkerson, Eli Johnson, the youngster, firing up a 3-0, and that's going to go over to Highland Park. Two sophomores on the court for Lake Highlands. One freshman on the court for Highland Park. And at times you will see 2 freshmen on the court for Highland Park, as Alex Stockwood will join Chris Martinez. Great defenders on both sides for both teams. Martinez with it. Martinez to Noble. Noble to feed and blocked. Kaplan was going to the basket. And Osa Wednesday said no, sir. But Highland Park will retain possession as Miller Mass subs in for Lake Highlands. Cannon Wyatt being stared down by Sincere Anderson. He's going to get it to Big Will Saunders. Saunders going to go back to Wyatt. Wyatt, baseline, feed to Kaplan. Kaplan back to Noble, and he's going to go back to Kaplan. Kaplan going to go to the basket, and he draws the foul. And Cade Kaplan going to the free throw line for the 4th time this evening. He has done a great job of being aggressive and forcing Lake Highlands to not only play defense, but forcing them to foul him. And Cade Kaplan now with 7 points. And Highland Park now up 40-28. Drains the second one. That's his 8-point. Perfect at the free throw line. 6:08 to go and ticking in the third period. Highland Park leading 41-28. Martinez continuing to be in Broom's hip pocket. And there's Wilkerson. And Wilkerson greatly defended by Cannon Wyatt, but I think they got him for the foul. Martinez was getting ready to get loose on a fast break. And they did get Wyatt for that foul. And they're saying Wilkerson was in the act of shooting. Wilkerson back to the free throw line for the second time himself. Hits the first one. 8 points for Ja'Shawn Wilkerson. And he wants to get it to within 11 for Lake Highlands. Second free throw shot up and then good for Lake Highlands. 9 points for Ja'Shawn Wilkerson. Highland Park leading 41-30. Cannon Wyatt doing battle with Sincere Anderson. Gets it to Martinez. Martinez over to Kaplan. Back to Saunders. Drops it off for Wyatt. Wyatt, he's going to challenge. Nice feed to Conrad Noble. Noble cutting and getting to the basket. His first 2 points of the evening. Highland Park leading 43-30. And here come the Wildcats. As they move it around, both teams are not going to be too aggressive if there is no need to be. Cannon Wyatt, slight deflection. Both teams, they want to get themselves a great shot. Sincere Anderson wanted that one. Jamian Broom for three. He hits it. 9 points for Jamian Broom. He gets Lake Highlands to within 10. Highland Park leading 43-33. Here come Cade Kaplan and the Scots. Kaplan challenging. Nice feed to Noble. Noble cannot control. They turn it over. Noble wanted that pass a little bit higher. Not just great ball movement, but great offensive movement by the Scots. Conrad Noble finding his way to the basket that time, but they could not execute the pass. Scots still leading by 10, 4:40 to go and ticking here in the third quarter. Sincere Anderson. There's Henry Moore for Lake Highlands. Gets it back to Wilkinson, back to Osa. Osa across court to Jamian Broom, back to Brown. Shot, Jamian Broom, nothing doing. Will Saunders the rebound. Saunders going to slowly bring it up the court before he gets it to Martinez. Martinez going to set up the offense. Gets it over to Conrad Noble to Cannon Wyatt. Back to Martinez. Coach Peeler on his feet, calling the offense, and Martinez gets it over to Noble. Saunders trying to get it into Martinez, slightly off. Scott still with it. Wyatt back to Martinez. Martinez to the basket. Martinez continuing to play great basketball. As he has his 9th point, and the Scots back up by 12. 45-33. 3.5 minutes to go here in the third period. Scots, great rotation on the defense. Lake Highlands, Sincere Anderson for three. He hits it. 7 points for Anderson. And Lake Highlands to within 9 now. Gotten it down to single digits. Highland Park leading 45-36. Conrad and Will Saunders trying to finish the alley-oop on the layup, cannot finish. Here comes Lake Highlands. Jamian Broom with it. Broom getting it to Osa. And Martinez tying him up. They call it jump ball, but possession Lake Highlands. Off-ball defense and on-ball defense has been outstanding by the Scots. And everyone has done their part. Whether it's Martinez, Conrad Noble, or Saunders, or Wyatt, or Kaplan, or the guys on the bench. Zach Jackson has come off the bench and played some great defense himself. And now Highland Park forcing a turnover. There's Conrad Noble forcing the turnover that time. And Lake Highlands is going to call a timeout. 2:41 to go here in this third period. Your Highland Park Scots leads Lake Highlands 45-36. Coach Peeler giving his guys some encouraging words. Drawing up the offense on his clipboard, but I'm pretty sure one of the things he's saying as he points at Will Saunders that time, young man, keep up the defensive pressure. And he's probably telling Conrad Noble, hey, son, keep cutting to the basket. We're going to keep finding you. And Peeler looking to add to his winning record, make it 476 and 159. And that's just his record at Highland Park. He is 660 and 311 overall. Very, very stellar record. He's 25 wins away from 500 wins at Highland Park, and the Scots turn it over. Martinez was trying to get it to Cannon Wyatt. Wyatt could not control. Lake Highlands with it down. Kenneth Brown back in the game for Lake Highlands. As is Quincy Perkins. Perkins cannot control. Cannon Wyatt to steal. Martinez to the basket. Yes, sir. 11 points for Martinez. He joins Will Saunders in the double-digit category. Scots back up by 11, 47-36. Approaching the 2-minute mark to go in the third period. Will Saunders with great backside defense. But Osum Wednesday, he finishes. That's 8 points for the big man. Lake Highlands back to within 9. We are below the 2-minute mark. Highland Park turns it over. Here come the Wildcats. Henry Moore with it. Moore getting it to Broom. Martinez to steal. They say he fouled Broom. And Martinez and Wyatt both. They were on the move on a fast break. Martinez's second foul of the evening. 1:45 to go. And Highland Park leading 47-38. Lake Highlands trying to get it to within 7 now. Nice mid-range jumper by the big man. Osum Wednesday now with 10 points. Highland Park's lead cut to 7, 47-40. 1:22 to go and ticking here in the third period. Cade Kaplan gets it over to Saunders. Back to Martinez. Martinez going to go to the basket. Feeds it to Cannon Wyatt for 3. Nothing doing. Rebound Osum Wednesday. Here comes Lake Highlands. That was the shot that Highland Park wanted. They just could not finish. There's a 3-point for Lake Highlands. Nothing doing. Rebound, Henry Moore. He cannot finish. Martinez continuing to play great defense. Ball on the floor. Henry Moore up for 3 after gaining control. Cade Kaplan with it after the air ball. Here comes Kaplan. Now he's going to slow it down. And Kaplan challenging Kenneth Brown. But he's going to get it to Saunders. Saunders going to give it right back to Kaplan. Kaplan baseline to the basket. Kaplan, the finish. Putting Highland Park back up by 9. And there's 10 points for Cade Kaplan. The third scorer to get into double-digit scoring for Highland Park. They've got 3 with at least 10 now. And they got Cannon Wyatt for the foul that time. Almost catching one on the chin from Sincere Anderson. New subs coming in. Spencer Olmison in the game. Alex Stockwood in the game for Highland Park. There's those 2 freshmen on the court at the same time for Highland Park. Sincere Anderson with Chris Martinez in his hip pocket. Martinez rotating on defense. Now he's staring down Jayshawn Wilkerson. Fighting off the screen. Wilkerson to mid-range. Nothing doing. Alex Stockwood getting in there. Not allowing the Wildcats to get another attempt. And that's the end of the third period here on Game On Sports. Your Highland Park Scots leading Lake Highlands 49-40. And Highland Park at 1-1, trying to get the 2-1. Lake Highlands 0-1, trying to get their first win of the year. 2 well-coached teams. And both coaches preaching ball movement and great defense and rebounding. 49-40, that is the score. We say thank you again for tuning in right here at Game On Sports Network. My name is Matthew Bryce. Cookie Hawkins is the man engineering this whole thing. Fred Garner also working. Most CEOs don't get their hands dirty, but he's getting his dirty all the time, and he's getting them dirty right now. Nice crowd here for the early tip-off. We did tip off at 5 Central. And a big shout out to Highland Park's football team. They got a big playoff win yesterday evening. Put up a good 40 spot, 45 to be exact, as they head to the third round, and they are awaiting the winner between Cedar Park and Frisco Wakeland. And Lake Highlands, they're in the 6A bracket, getting ready to kick off against Allen in 59 minutes. Back to action. Chris Martinez going to bring it up to court. Sincere Anderson staring him down. Martinez over to Wyatt and back to Martinez. Back to Stockwood. Stockwood over to Wyatt. And Wyatt going to go baseline, feed it to Will Saunders. Back to Wyatt. And Wyatt, mid-range. Yes, sir. Cannon Wyatt now with double digits in scoring, as he now has 11. Highland Park back up by double digits, leading 51-40. 7:25 to go and ticking in regulation. Kenneth Brown getting it over to Jay-Sean Wilkerson. And Miller Marks is going to fire up a three. Nothing doing. Kenneth Brown a rebound, and he puts it back in for a finish for Lake Highlands. That's Brown's first 2 points. Highland Park now up by 9, leading 51-42. Martinez getting it to Saunders. Saunders said, Martinez, you go to the basket and do your thing, but he cannot finish. Marks the rebound, gets it up to Sincere Anderson. Will Saunders, the great defense, but Anderson, the great finish. And Highland Park calls timeout as Lake Highlands gets it back to within 7. Highland Park still leading 51-44. 6:49 to go here in regulation in the fourth period. It was a close, tightly contested game in the first quarter, and the second period rolled around, and Highland Park really opened things up, getting to a double-digit lead at halftime. Took that double-digit lead into the third period, where Lake Highlands was able to close just a tad bit. And now they get it a little bit closer here, as the Scots now lead by 7. As we come out of the timeout, both teams break the huddle. Will Saunders, Spencer Olmison, Alex Stockwood, Cannon Wyatt, and Chris Martinez. They are your 5 on the court for Highland Park. Lake Highlands, Eli Johnson, Jay-Sean Wilkerson, Jamian Broom, Miller Marks, and Sincere Anderson. That is their 5. Olmison getting it to Stockwood. Stockwood feeds it to Wyatt. Mid-range by Wyatt. He gets the roll. And Wyatt now with 13 points, the leading scorer for Highland Park. Scots leading 53-44. 6:20 and ticking here in regulation. There's Eli Johnson. Olmison staring him down. Saunders with great backside defense. They rotate on defense. Stockwood. But Sincere Anderson goes to the basket, nothing doing. Miller marks the follow. Miller masks the follow. Mask with his first 2 points of the evening for Lake Highlands. Wildcats back to within 7. Alex Stockwood has it, and they get him for an offensive foul. 5:55 to go in regulation. And Scott's leading 53-46. Conrad Noble, he's going to sub back in, as is Cade Kaplan. They join Olmison and Martinez on the floor. Broom over to Osum Wednesday, who subs back in for Lake Highlands. There's Eli Johnson. Olmison right there in his hip pocket, and they get Eli Johnson for an offensive foul. Spencer Olmison doing a great job of setting his feet and moving his feet and getting in front of Johnson to force that offensive foul. Possession, Highland Park. And Martinez With Jamian Broom in his hip pocket, he's going to get it to Cade Kaplan. Kaplan over to Olmison. Olmison over to Stockwood. Stockwood tries to feed it, cannot. Martinez over to Kaplan. Baseline. Running jumper, nothing doing. Rebound, Lake Highlands. Ball on the floor. Highland Park trying to come up with it. And Osa Wednesday comes up with it for Lake Highlands. Spencer Olmison in front of him. And Jamian Broom slows it down. They got Spencer Olmison for a foul. Said he had Osa Wednesday by the waist. Possession, Lake Highlands. Broom gets it into Wilkerson. Wilkerson to Johnson, over to Broom. Martinez right there, Johnny on the spot, as is Olmison. Eli Johnson's going to fire up a three. Nothing doing. Conrad Noble giving chase. Lake Highlands with it. Turnover. Highland Park. Martinez with a steal. Off of Henry Moore. And Martinez straight to the basket. He got mugged. Ref said no, he didn't. David Peeler is ready to come unglued, and I can't blame him. Look like a foul to me. But I'm not a ref, so I can't say. We are here at the 4:37 mark to go in regulation. The score remains 53-46 as it has done in the past minute and a half that is going to run off the clock. Martinez staring down Jamian Broom. They have competed with one another all night. Eli Johnson, he's got Conrad Noble in his hip pocket. Welcome back, Conrad Noble, to the game. Noble right there. Lake Highlands trying to get themselves a good shot. Nice ball movement on the pivot, and one, Sincere Anderson. And that's 11 points for Sincere Anderson. He wants to add to it. And it's getting real tight as Lake Highlands is now back to within 5 at the 4:15 mark to go. Highland Park leading 53-48. And Anderson wants to cut into that lead a little bit more. Anderson had a great night for Lake Highlands, trying to complete the and one opportunity. Free throw up from Anderson, and he nails it. 12 points for Anderson. Highland Park's lead is now cut to 4, 53-49. And Lake Highlands continuing the tradition of great free throw shooting. They've set the standard for it. Highland Park. Martinez with it. Eli Johnson on him. Noble back to Martinez. Over to Cannon Wyatt. Over to Saunders, then back to Wyatt. Wyatt slips. And they're saying foul on Sincere Anderson. Yep, they're saying he tripping. They're saying the foul is on Jay-Sean Wilkerson. But the ref said it was a tripping foul. It looked to me like it was on Anderson. Again, I'm not the ref, though. So I got to let him do a job and just do mine as a commentator. 3:49 to go. And Highland Park with possession. And Cade Kaplan, he's going to take it out. Saunders back to Kaplan. Saunders with it, baseline. Feed to Wyatt. Wyatt mid-range. Cannot finish. Rebound, Osum Wednesday. Lake Highlands with the opportunity to cut it to 2 and even 3. And even 1, excuse me. There's Eli Johnson. Johnson over to Broom. Cannon Wyatt staring down Jamian Broom. Highland Park in desperate need of a stop. Jay-Sean Wilkerson with Martinez in his hip pocket. Martinez, great defense. Rebound, Martinez. Here comes the Scots. Martinez over to Cannon Wyatt for 3. Nothing doing. Rebound, Jay-Sean Wilkerson. Here comes the Wildcats. Wilkerson on the move. And they get Will Saunders for a foul. That's the second foul for Saunders. Ref saying it's on the floor. No free throw attempts. Miller Mask, he's going to sub in for Olsen Wednesday. There's Mask, number 12, the big man. Gets it over to Wilkerson. Wilkerson back to Sincere Anderson. Cannon wide, staring him down. Now Conrad Noble switching over. Conrad Noble, the great defense, and a delayed call and a foul on Conrad Noble. And Anderson back to the free throw line. Anderson has done a great job of getting to the free throw line himself. Officially crunch time here in Lake Highlands Gym. 2:47 to go in this fourth period. Highland Park leading 53-49, make it 53-50. Sincere Anderson with his 13th point of the evening. And Lake Highlands taking everyone off the lane for the free throw attempt. That's how good of a free throw shooter Sincere Anderson is. Coach has that much faith in him, and he misses it. Chris Martinez coming down with the rebound. Highland Park's lead remains at 3, 53-50. And here come the Scots. Feed to Will Saunders. Will Saunders cannot finish. And they're saying out on Martinez as he tries to poke that out. We get to the 2:32 mark to go. And now Highland Park in need of another stop. And Jamian Broom bringing it up for the Wildcats. Martinez in his hip pocket. There's Miller Mask. Getting it to Wilkerson. Wilkerson the spin move. Cannot finish. Rebound, Conrad Noble. Great defense by Cade Kaplan and Will Saunders. Here comes Kaplan. Back to Martinez. Martinez feeds it to Kaplan. Kaplan back to Martinez. Martinez to finish and one. Martinez with 13 points and looking to add to it. And Highland Park with a stop and a basket. And look who came up with it, Chris Martinez. It's Highland Park now back in front by 5, leading 55-50. A very humid atmosphere here in the Wildcat Gym. As the Revs and the janitor, they clean things up. Everyone gets a quick break. And now Martinez trying to complete a 3-point and 1 play. And stretch that Scots lead to 6. He misses. Saunders tips it out. Wildcats, Scots battling for it. They're saying out on Lake Highlands, possession, Highland Park. And we got a quick timeout by Highland Park. 2:02 to go in this one. Highland Park leading 55-50 and they're going to start with possession. As you saw after the missed free throw, both teams getting after it. The big men for both and the guards for both teams trying to come up with that one. But Highland Park, they were successful, and they're going to come out of this timeout with possession. For those of you who are just now tuning in, we say thank you and welcome to another Game On Sports Network production. Highland Park is leading 55-50. It is officially crunch time as we are almost at the 2-minute mark. And the Scots looking to close this one out and get to 2-1. My name is Matthew Bryce. I have your play-by-play and your color. As we come out of the timeout now, 2:02 to go. Lake Highlands trying to get it. Pass regulation. Highland Park trying to shut things down and get out of here with a win. Martinez, Conrad Noble, Cade Kaplan, Will Saunders, and Cannon Wyatt are the Scots that are on the floor. Martinez trying to get it in, almost turning it over. Ball's on the floor. Sincere Anderson has it. And it's going to be possession. Lake Highlands. Sincere Anderson coming up with a steal. That's the kind of game it's been all evening. Tightly contested defense. Every basket that has been made by both teams has been well earned. Even the wide open shots were shots that they had to really work for on both ends of the court. Great ball movement by both teams. And a great effort overall by both teams. That is the sign of great coaching. And we tip our hats to both. 30-second timeout is up. Highland Park breaks the huddle, as does Lake Highlands. 1:58 to go in regulation. Lake Highlands starting with possession. Sincere Anderson, he's going to get it into Jamie and Broom. There's Broom. There's Martinez in his hip pocket. They continue to challenge one another. And great defense by Cannon Wyatt forces the steal. Martinez up with it. Martinez turns it back over there. Sincere Anderson with another great steal. And they saying Anderson stepped out. Possession back to Highland Park. And another quick whistle. Henry Moore is going to sub back in for Eli Johnson for Lake Highlands. And Cannon Wyatt, he's going to throw it in. Wyatt gets it back to Martinez in the backcourt. 1:40 and ticking. Highland Park 55, Lake Highlands 50, and a turnover. Osa comes up with it. Here comes Lake Highlands. There's Henry Moore going to the basket. He turns it over. Cade Kaplan to steal. Cade Kaplan straight to the basket, feeds it to Wyatt. Wyatt going up with it, draws the foul. Cannon Wyatt going to shoot 2 more free throws. They get Henry Moore for the foul. 1:23 to go. Cannon Wyatt nailing that first free throw. He's got 14. Scots lead back up to 6 at 56-50. Cannon Wyatt. Can you do it again and stretch it to 7? No, he cannot. Rebound. Osum Wednesday. Here comes Lake Highlands. 1:18 and ticking. Highland Park leading 56-50. Jamie and Broom with it. Broom getting it to Wilkerson. Scots rotate on defense. Conrad Noble forcing the turnover, but he cannot come up with it. They say out of bounds. Conrad Noble. What an effort on the defensive side of the court for number 5. Coach Peeler's going to be proud of him when he reviews the tape. Jamie and Broom throwing it in, getting it to Sincere Anderson. Cade Kaplan right in his hip pocket. Will Saunders trying to rotate over but cannot. Osum Wednesday with 12 points as Lake Highlands back to within 4. 56-52. Highland Park leading. Will Saunders getting it back to Cannon Wyatt. Ladies and gentlemen, there is no shot clock. We're at 43 seconds and ticking left in the game. Highland Park leads 56-52. Cannon Wyatt draws the foul. They get Sincere Anderson. And Cannon Wyatt, he's going to go to the free throw line. 39.68 seconds left on the clock. Wyatt successfully drains that free throw. He's got 15 points. 57-52, Highland Park leading. Wyatt gets the roll on the second. 58-52, Highland Park leads. Here come the Wildcats. 34 seconds and ticking to go in regulation. The Wildcats, there's Ja'Shawn Wilkerson, mid-range, nothing doing. Rebound, Cade Kaplan. Another great defensive effort on that side of the court from Highland Park. Cannon Wyatt with it. He draws the foul. Want to get Sincere Anderson for another one. 21.38 seconds left. Highland Park 58, Lake Highlands 52. Cannon Wyatt looking to stretch that lead to 8 points and get the Scots out of here at 2-1. Cannon Wyatt. Yes, sir. 17 points for the captain. Tiffany and Matt Wyatt, his parents, proud as he drains his 18th point, getting the Scots back up by 8. We are below 20 seconds. Chris Martinez staring down Jamie and Broom. Broom over to Eli Johnson. Eli going to the basket. They get Will Saunders for a foul. And Eli Johnson is going to go to the free throw line. Johnson with 5 points. 9.96 seconds to go. And Highland Park leading by 8, 60-52. Eli Johnson missing the first free throw. Subbing in for Lake Highlands. Ref saying no, sir. Kenneth Brown wanted to come in. Johnson drains the second one. 6 points for Eli Johnson. Highland Park leading 60-53, 9.96 to go. And here comes the full court press and heavy defense. And Jamie and Broom almost forcing a turnover, but the Scots retain possession. Now down to 9.27 seconds. Will Saunders trying to get it in. Gets it in to Cannon Wyatt. He gets fouled. Jay-Sean Wilkerson is going to send Cannon Wyatt back to the free throw line. That's Wilkerson's fourth. Wilkerson with 9 points for Lake Highlands. Cannon Wyatt with 18. He's trying to make it 20. Misses the first one. Highland Park, no guys on the free throw line as they want to get back on defense in a hurry. He gets the second one. 19 points for Cannon Wyatt, 19 big points. 6 seconds left. Jamie and Broom going to shoot a three. Misses. Rebound. Osum Wednesday, he gets it. But that's going to end it, ladies and gentlemen. Final score here at Lake Highlands. Your Highland Park Scots 61. Lake Highlands 55. The Highland Park Scots. 3 6A state title contenders they face. They're 2-1. Now with the 61-55 win over the 2023 state champion Lake Highland Wildcats. Leading scorers for both teams, we're going to start with Lake Highlands. Osum Wednesday with 14 points. Sincere Anderson with 13. Jay-Sean Wilkerson with 9. Jamie and Broom with 9. Elon Johnson with 6. 2 from Kenneth Brown and 2 from Miller Mask. And now the leading scorers for your Highland Park Scots. Cannon Wyatt, 19 points. Chris Martinez with 13. Will Saunders, 11. Cade Kaplan, 10. Conrad Noble chipped in 2. Spencer Olmison with 3. Alex Stockwood with 3. Again, Highland Park 2-1 now after a 61-56 win over Lake Highlands. We say thank you for tuning in to Game On Sports Network. On behalf of Game On Sports, my name is Matthew Bryce. We say God bless, and we say game on, and we'll see you next week.